Talk about the devs at Sucker Punch or so talking about the celebrating basically the fucking what's his face this freaking passing away, freaking Charlie Kirk's passing away. These freaking developers were celebrating his fucking death or so. I'm just like, Jesus Christ. You don't got any self-restraint?
I want to make something crystal clear before I move forward with this video. Everybody is allowed to have opinions. Everybody is allowed to voice those opinions, but they have to make sure that they are weighing the consequences of their own words and understanding what kind of impact they're going to have.
I think this personal opinion here is probably not the right opinion. I'm gonna be honest with you. Just having, I'm just saying, like, can you have an opinion about it? Yeah, you can, but you're so gonna be fucking wrong on it though. Because, number one, this is someone's life at the end of the day. It's not like, it's not like, something super harmless. Also, I like his Escape the Fate shirt too as well. But it's not like something that's like, you can just kind of like laugh it off and anything like that. No, this is something that's like serious, like very, very serious. So.
And I don't think that's happening. I don't think it's happening at the scale that it should. I don't think it's being called out the way that it should. And I think it's had a detrimental effect on the relationship between the customer and the game developers. Deep-rooted narcissism and a lack of consequences. That's ultimately what the problem here is. And I've been looking at a lot of the discourse over the past couple of weeks and some of the tragedies that have happened. And for me, and I think for a lot of people as well.
I think they got canned from what I've heard. It's not 100% confirmed. Damn, dude. That'd be crazy if they did actually.
Well, it's not even a partisan issue as much as it is a problem or an issue with professionalism and general morals.
That's true.
You have game developers flying the flag of their company in their social media bios, running around using the influence that's been afforded to them by those same employers, going around promoting and celebrating the loss of life of their political opposition. Yep. That's unacceptable.
Yep.
They're doing it without any case.
Even then, on top of that, he's not even like I would say like he's not part of like the whole like the political, like I was gonna say not the political spectrum, but I was like, what's the word or so? Like he's not part of like it's just a guy who debates with people, records it, and just put it on YouTube. That's it, on his YouTube channel. I assume he has a YouTube channel. So like it's not even a guy that's part of like the whole government, governor thing. It's just a regular dude who's just talking about his opinions, and debating with people. That's it. It's just a guy who just debates, That's the funny thing about it. It's not like, it's nothing like he's like, like he's like, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, so.
Care to the risks it's going to bring to not only their games, but their coworkers and their studio. All for some upvotes on an edgy comment for Blue Sky.
Oh, this is on Blue Sky?
That is the saying in the entertainment industry, whether that's social media, video games, movies, television, or whatever else. Anytime that you open your mouth, every time...
I'm not surprised at all, to be honest, if it's on Blue Sky.
You think that you have something worth saying, realize that you're always going to risk alienating your audience. And from my perspective, at least with this hobby, I don't think that anything here is supposed to represent alienation. So here I am a year later, giving the same
I'd be curious to see that.
The same sobering lesson on business ethics, on professional ethics, on
I kind of want to laugh at these people
because
who,
for whatever reason, the video game industry
like,
doesn't know when to shut its own mouth because, well, they think that their opinions...
You know what sucks about it? I was definitely not thinking of buying Ghost of Yote. Like I was kind of like on the fence of buying it or not buying it. After what has happened of today in the past like couple of days and weeks or so that has happened, I will definitely not be buying the game itself. I will not. When it comes out on PC, I will not buy this game. I will not. Because, yes, did they get fired? Yes, which is a good job. Yes, but that says a lot about what's been happening behind the scenes in at Sucker Punch, you know? It kind of like says a lot about it, you know, as in like, so because number one, right? The Ghost of Yote was not supposed to be Ghost of Yote. It was supposed to be Ghost of Tsushima 2. Even the Japan side of PlayStation were a bit confused of why is it Ghost of Yote? It should have been Ghost of Tsushima 2. So that was just kind of like the thing that was just kind of like, so yes, gotta punish the company that allowed this kind of environment to begin with. Like at the end of the day, like they're held responsible for it, you know, for bringing these people on board. I feel like they should be started doing background checks on these kinds of things, in my personal opinion. But that's just me, though. That's just my opinion, you know?
Matter more than their coworkers and their customers. I think it's a rather milquetoast take for me to come out and say that I think that society and entertainment have become increasingly more political. I think it's obvious at this point. It's hard to deny it, and it's to the point where you can't even escape it, even though that's exactly what most of us are setting out to do. I can't open a single app, game, TV show, or
I'll
movie.
give them bonus points that they did fire them immediately. You know how like some people don't fire these people? My question is how many of them got fired? And how many of these developers were saying nonsense shenanigans, you know? Like how many of the developers on the team was, you know?
Without having somebody trying to preach their politics to me. And the spaces that we used to have that used to be safe from it largely don't even exist anymore. And I think that's created this new kind of social divide in consumer products and media, where customers were once basing their purchasing habits off of practicality, quality, and enjoyment. Well, now this new category has forced its way into the equation, politics, and it's just complicating things further. I mean, it makes sense. Politics are deeply rooted in personal values and beliefs. They shape the way that we see the world and how we want to see the world. And I think in most cases, especially when it comes to entertainment, people do not want to engage with something that directly conflicts with their beliefs, or worse, outright demonizes them. That's why I've always advocated for less politics in entertainment, because I think it risks alienating audiences and escalating division. It's the reason why I steer clear of those conversations myself. I have my own personal politics, of course, but I'm not interested or passionate enough to bring them here. I'm not informed or confident enough to speak on them with any level of authority that would be worth dividing my community over something that largely does not matter for the service that I provide. When I criticize some of these studios for forcing politics into their games, it's not because I secretly hold some kind of agenda. It's just because I believe that they just don't belong there. Players...
Facts. The whole political shenanigans or so being part of like just your work. You're trying to make a game, you know? It's like, what are we doing here? Why are we talking about this? Why are we trying to add this into a video game? You know, you should be making video games to escape reality, bring them into a new world, a new fantasy world, or a new futuristic cyberpunk world. You know, something to take them away from, you know, what they're dealing with in real life and bring them to an adventure that they'll never forget, you know? That's what I'm saying.
Come from every background imaginable, different beliefs, values, experiences, and different walks of life entirely, different countries entirely, and they don't need me or game developers telling them how to think. What they actually need is for people like me to respect their time and for developers to respect their experience. But while I see all of this as unnecessary, it seems like developers believe otherwise. It feels like anytime there's a major controversy or tragedy, both game developers and games media feel compelled to voice their opinions. They use the platforms and recognition afforded to them by their employers or by the games that they worked on to broadcast those opinions to their audience and to their peers. And what I find to be the most disgusting and reckless misuse of that platform, Sucker Punch Studios' Drew Harris, a senior developer of Ghost of Yotai, came forward on Blue Sky to seemingly celebrate and make light of the brutal end met by political influencer Charlie Kirk.
Jesus Christ.
This was first discovered and reported on by gaming content creator Legacy Killa HD. Following the news of Kirk's passing, Drew posted on Blue Sky saying that
In case you didn't know, a number of voices in the game industry are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, and now they're being called out this disgusting behavior. Accounts like I Love Airbagged, which is a band evader, is going into overdrive to defend this.
I hope the shooter's name is Mario so that Luigi knows his bro got his back. A post that was liked multiple times by developers
Jesus.
from the Coalition, Bungie, and a few others.
The Coalition. Who is the Coalition? What is that part of? You also got Bungie people on here? Bro, yeah, really don't need this, especially when Destiny is not doing very well, and then also Marathon is fucking dying outside in the fucking heat. I think you can include politics in your story, but it needs to be handled in a fair way to pass. The problem is no. You don't understand. The problem is these people don't know exactly how to add politics into their story. You know, like, yeah, Metal Gear has its politics in it, but like these people don't know exactly. This is basically what I'm discussing about. You know, like this in general. It's like I'm just stroking with a very broad stroke, but this is what I'm basically is like referencing. You know, I think the devs who made Gears series. Oh, okay. The what is it? The ones from the Xbox, right? Yeah. You got a producer at Sucker Punch at the end of the day. Magic, what is it? Magic the Gathering Arena at Sucker Punch Prod? That's interesting. Yeah, the way how they do it or so is not the right way. You know?
A localizer from Final Fantasy XIV.
I'm just brushing it with a broad brush.
That's about it. You know? Witch hunt then ensued, and suddenly more players and commentators were paying closer attention to the words of developers. Once Drew's post made it over to Twitter, with people sharing his comments directly to his employer, others sharing posts about canceling their pre-orders, and instead of backing down, Drew instead doubled down, mocking the situation entirely with posts like, "I have been told that Twitter has noticed me from across the room, ooh woo. Some of y'all never have heard the critically acclaimed Mario Brothers franchise by Nintendo, and it shows. And maybe instead of emailing people's employers, y'all should be emailing your reps and demanding gun control immediately." I don't even know what to say.
That's crazy to be saying that about gun control, you know? Guns don't kill people. The person who is holding the gun kills people. Let's not forget about that, you know? Like, if someone has if a knife is just sitting in the middle of a room or so, the knife isn't gonna just start stabbing people. No. It'll be the person who is holding the knife that is going to stab somebody. You know? I really hate this logic or so. It's like, you gotta do some gun control shit. I'm like, no. That's not how it works here. The one who is mentally ill is the one who's gonna pull the trigger every single time. It's not the gun, it's the person holding it.
I am stunned by the lack of self-awareness and care here. Not only are you representing your company, not only is your game already being dragged into the conversation with your employer being tagged in these posts, but then you just go and double down with more edgy posting and doing it using a competitor's brand. I honestly wonder how Nintendo feels about one of Sony's employees running around using the name of their company, their characters, and one of their most iconic franchises to make jokes about the death of a political influencer. Oh wait, never mind, I do know. You lost your job. Look, I don't know anything about Charlie Kirk. I don't watch that kind of content. I don't follow the political sphere. And
yeah, I don't really follow the political sphere. I never like I said, I watch tidbits here and there, but like I don't really watch it the entire time. But like, that's pretty crazy that this person got fired. I'd be curious to see, you know, the next video that we'll be taking a look at to see what other people got fired.
Don't have anything to add to the debate between people's love or hate for the guy, but what I will say is this: it is wholly unacceptable to condone, celebrate, or promote this kind of extreme violence.
Exactly.
While I will say that I largely stay uninvolved in these political matters, usually on the side of just on the outside looking in, what I have seen over the last decade online is more and more communities that are normalizing it. Social media that is just fueling pockets of people that are escalating and celebrating violent rhetoric.
Dude, I feel like definitely after COVID or so, definitely the mental illness skyrocketed massively, to be honest. In the UK, the way they tackle reducing knife violence is by talking to the youth.
Insecure and disturbed groups of people that are just gassing each other up, egging people on to ruin their lives and the lives of others just so they can have somebody else to point to and say, at least I'm not them. From my perspective, gaming should never be that space. Game
Yeah.
developers should not allow it to turn into that kind of space.
If
If
someone wants to
anything,
harm
this
anybody,
industry
they don't even need a gun. Just he just grabs whatever he has, like one in the subway. Well, yeah, it's just like it's like I said specifically. I already said this. The knife, the knife isn't gonna kill anybody. The person who is wielding the knife is gonna kill somebody. Like I said, I already said this already.
we should be doing the
It's
exact
whatever
opposite,
weapon
toning
at the end of the
rhetoric
day.
down,
The weapon
lowering the
doesn't kill
temperature, and
people.
recognizing the risk of what happens.
You can
if
just use
this
that
keeps
logic of what I
escalating.
said to
Especially
anything
now, we
that
are walking
applies
into
to it.
unknown territory after such a horrific event. After seeing the post from game developers speaking up, I put my own thoughts on Twitter and I wrote, I don't think that they realize how much this damages their brand, puts their coworkers at risk,
Yep.
and alienates their audiences.
Yep.
Likely they don't care. I doubt anything will happen, like with Avowed and Obsidian, when their devs ego tripped, nothing happened because the studio shared the same values.
Yeah, that's the thing about it, you know. Remember that that person or so from Avowed or so that literally made that freaking game, and like, you know, what was it, that weird bald guy or so? They didn't do nothing or so. That's the thing or so that I'm like questioning with these other developers who bring these kinds of people on board. You know, I'm just kind of like, I don't know if I should even, like, at this point, it's like almost every single AAA studio is just has been infected. You know, the only ones who haven't been infested by this weird ideology is the indie developers. That's why I've been enjoying some indie games, you know, when I play from time to time.
Luckily, something did happen in this case. Sony's been a little bit more proactive, probably because of the fact that they've had some recent failures. However, the second incident that I was referring to happened just before the release of Avowed. During the previews for the game, some people on social media were pointing out how the game was using pronouns, with Elon Musk criticizing it. And instead of just letting the game speak for itself, Obsidian's art director Matt Hansen jumped in, openly celebrating the controversy as he posted, "I wanted to make him mad with my game, and I can't believe it actually happened." And then, in the same breath, promoted the game. That move only poured fuel on the fire. Outrage grew. People started digging up older, deleted posts about Obsidian's hiring practices, and for what? To me, it looked like somebody that was just letting their ego...
Wait. Can I see that? Reminder to Black artists out there who are looking for portfolio reviews or job advice. My DMs are open and you will always have my priority. We got too many crusty white dudes in this field. Please let me help you replace... Wait, what? Please let me help you replace me one day? I want to go back to living in the woods? What the fuck? What? What are we talking about? What? Man, dude. Jesus Christ. Alright then. Okay then. Hey man. Hey man, you do you at the end of the day.
Take the wheel and using their game as a platform to be able to divide their customers and push their personal politics. Xbox and Obsidian did nothing about it. And while you can agree with me or not, but I think that alienating your audience like that, they set their own game up for failure. Avowed peaked at just 19,000 players on Steam before sliding into obscurity a week later. I don't think these developers understand the impact of their words in a world that is more divisive.
I never knew the game actually died that hard, to be honest. Yikes.
Political and connected than ever, in an economy that's more difficult than ever, in a games industry where performance and quality are becoming increasingly more hit or miss. When you go out and you take these unnecessary risks that are rooted in your own ego, it's coming at the cost of your studio's reputation, your coworkers' future, and, well, the success of your game. Again, I want to be clear, it's not that you can't have opinions. It's not that you can't not like a political figure. It's just that you cannot be doing this on a platform that is afforded to you by your employer. I'll be real with you guys, when I see somebody that's posting that stuff that proudly and they're doing it so confidently, it likely tells me that they believe that there's going to be no consequences for their actions, because they likely do have coworkers that share the same views. We already know that's the case because we saw there was multiple people from the studio that had liked that post and shared that post that they had made. And that doesn't matter. Even if you have the support of your studio, your game's not even out yet. Why would you... All you've effectively done is just put your coworkers' lives at risk, their livelihood and their security. Look at the temperature of society right now. Look at the economy. Why would you go and poke the bear? It is so reckless and it's so selfish.
Because like you said, they feel like they're not going to get any consequences, especially posting it in on Blue Sky, you know? Hey, Joe. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like, you know, you reap what you sow at the end of the day. You know, actions have consequences. Why? Can we just bring that phrase or so? Can we just like teach people or so, like the younger generation, your actions have consequences? Remember that, kiddos. Your actions have consequences. When did we start like forgetting to say these things to like the younger generation, you know? Like when did this stop? That's my question to ask, you know?
These developers don't understand that first impressions are oftentimes last impressions, and their words carry a lot farther than they think they do. I think that's obvious by now. And
also, especially on top of that too, that one developer who called like a bunch of people talentless freaks or whatever, that definitely, I forgot what game it was, but that definitely killed the game significantly. I think it was the Dustborn game, I think.
The game isn't even out yet. And this is the first time this game has gone viral since I remember it even being announced. And the only marketing material that I remember for it was Summer Games Fest, at least recently.
That's true.
I think. They've already been overshadowed by all these multi-platform releases.
Yeah.
Keep in mind this game is going to be locked to PlayStation, at least initially. And every single game developer in the industry wants to release their game in September and October.
When we stopped teaching kids sticks and stones. Oh, you're talking about like the phrase, what was that phrase? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me. That one, that phrase or so? I remember that phrase. That was like a long time ago. It feels safe with numbers being with the other people with similar thoughts on Blue Sky. I just don't understand what's the point of... I feel like it has to be related to Clout. It has to be. Like there's no way it's not related to Clout. I just don't understand why people want to go this hard on like, you know, just the clout, you know, grabbing all this clout or so, you know?
This is going to stop a studio in its tracks. It could very well stop a studio in its tracks.
Oh yeah, no,
Who's
definitely.
to say this doesn't affect sales? Who's to say this doesn't result in layoffs?
Yep, that's gonna, because if the game flops or so, guess who's gonna pay for it? The people at the bottom, not the people at the top. The people at the bottom. They're gonna lay off people at the bottom, and it's not even gonna be just the people who were, you know, celebrating the death or so for Charlie Kirk, but the innocent person who was, you know, either making a background or working on a 3D asset for Ghost of Yote, who literally has no idea what even happened or so. They were just minding their own business, you know, and then they heard about it, but then, you know, they just want to keep their heads down and just work in silence. And you have a bunch of dumbasses, a handful of dumbasses anyways, in the same workplace who decide to open their goddamn mouth on the situation itself. And, well, Lord and behold, what do you expect, you know?
Hope it was worth it. Now I'll caveat and say that Sucker Punch is a studio of like 250 developers, likely more developers because they're getting close or they're just about to release Ghost of Yotai. And the opinion of one developer does not define the entire studio, and nor does it define whatever the final product is actually going to look like once it's actually released into.
But it's gonna leave one hell of an imprint on the goddamn company, I'll be honest with you. And also the game itself. And also leaving a pretty good impression, quote unquote good impression anyways, on the game itself.
The wild. But I don't really think that matters that much, because when that game comes out, because of how recent it is, people are going to remember the developer that was doubling down. People are going to look at Jin Sakai and see how it switched to a female lead and be like, ooh. Even though, yes, I know his story is over. Believe me, I'm actually with people on that one. I totally understand that. They're also going to look and see that the voice actress for the main character is also very outspoken online. And they're
I heard
gonna start
about that
connecting the
too.
dots. They're going to start seeing all the red flags, and they're going to say, yeah, you know what? Nope, not buying it. And honestly, I can't blame them.
Yep.
Not at all.
Yep.
You
same.
cannot afford to draw political battle lines on consumer products. They shouldn't even be there in the first place.
This is also the day and age of people getting involved in every convo. The best lesson I learned from TBH is mind your business. Exactly, yeah. The one other thing that I learned from TBH is like, if it does not apply to you, you let it fly. So whatever I say, if it does not apply to you, you fucking let it fly. Because I've had a couple of people or so who've been commenting in the video or so. It's like, we don't act that way, or you know, blah 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 blah. I'm like, look, man, I have this catchphrase that TBH told me a long time ago, and I will tell it to everybody here on my YouTube audiences. If it does not apply, you let it fly. But if for some apparent reason If it's agitating you, that means it is applying to you. So chill the fuck out. All right. That's always a thing that I've learned, and I've carried that with me completely. Like, as in, like, it's just kind of like whatever, it's just whatever for me, it's concerning when Metatron, who doesn't believe in boycotts, is calling for a boycott.
And devs are probably looking at this entire situation. There's probably even people that are watching this video right now that are like, well, this is just venting. It's just edgy posting online. This is all cancel
That's not
culture.
venting.
People getting all mad.
That's not even edgy posting either. That's not even trying to be an edge lord.
But
no, it's not.
I think that customers have noticed, especially with just the shift that we've seen in media over the past couple of years, that this looks like misplaced priorities more than anything else. It shows that we're not the priority in the conversation because they don't care what we think of what they have to say. And in a lot of cases, for a lot of people, they think that those opinions are ultimately going to bleed into the game itself. And for the people that believe that, they're not wrong. Recently I made a video on Bungie, and in it I talked about how their original philosophy was simple, that they were their customers. They built games that they themselves wanted to play, and that perspective kept them grounded. But as the years went on, that started to shift, and it shifted towards money, towards greed, and in losing that perspective, they also then lost sight of what their players actually wanted and needed. And I think that same problem is basically spread across the entire industry. In fact, I would actually argue that it's just entertainment as a whole now. They just don't see themselves and their customers anymore. Developers today, well, they think of their audience not as people like them, but instead as this like parasocial caricature of a customer, not someone who shares their same taste, but as somebody that wants to be taught by them, this imagined audience that wants to have their minds changed, or worse, the idealized version of who they wish their audience would be. But the truth is, customers in the real world are messy. We are a chaotic mix of beliefs, lifestyles, backgrounds, values, and principles. We do not think as a monolith, and we never will. And the irony is, none of that actually matters as long as you're just doing your job. As long as your job is just to make games. And if your objective is to create something fun, compelling, or interesting, well, you don't really need to worry about who your customer is. You don't have to worry about trying to reshape their worldview. All you need to do is just make a game worth playing. And the moment that you lose sight of that perspective, the moment that you start thinking of your players as something to correct or fix, is the moment that you've already broken that relationship. I think the industry underestimates how influential social media has become in shaping the way that these games are received. Developers might not see it that way because they're living in these insulated worlds where most of their peers are sharing their same values, but customers don't live in that same bubble. They see somebody on social media with the studio's name in their bio mocking, promoting, or celebrating something horrific, and they connect the dots immediately. They don't think to themselves.
It's like basically when they leave a review under a restaurant or so, because like now like we have this, because like before, right, you can't tell if a restaurant is going to be good or not, right? But now in today's day and age, you could just look up the reviews and then you can see if the restaurant is actually good or not. It's the same thing with social media. Social media definitely has a big major influence in everyone's life or so, that kind of like tells what kind of person somebody is at the end of the day. Most of the time my Twitter is mostly dead half the entire time, so but, it's because I don't really go on it most of the time. The only time I ever go on it if I need like reference photos from like from cosplayers or modeling pictures, and that's about it. If I need like a reference or so for a pose that I need to do for a drawing, I just haven't like I have gone on it, but like only for like a short bit, and I'm just like I'll save this one, I'll save this one, and then I just kind of like leave afterwards. So that's kind of like pretty much it. I just don't really bother. Or sometimes I check on Twitter so to see my future VTuber mama, who's working on some stuff behind the scenes with some new overlays, some new panels, emotes, and well, emotes are gonna be later, but freaking whatchamacallit, starting screen, BRB screen, and ending screen. So
oh, this is that person's opinion. They think of that as the studio's opinion, as the game's opinion, and I don't think that they understand that yet. And honestly, I don't think that the players are wrong to think that. Games are collaborative works. Studios often hire people who are culturally aligned with the studio, and if one developer is loud enough and confident enough to openly risk the studio's reputation online, it's a safe assumption to say that leadership either tolerates it or quietly agrees. Those values and those beliefs are ultimately going to make their way into the games. And by the way, this isn't a conversation about social politics. This is just about how games are made. And I think players are starting to pick up on that. When priorities are misaligned, when developers are valuing their own personal opinions over a player's experience, the result is just this lower quality and preachy game that people do not want to play. Video games aren't just collaborative works, they're creative works, shaped heavily by the
basically, like, you know, the same, if you have a rude server or a rude waiter, the best equivalent to that one are the developers, or, you know, in this for example, whatever higher up or so is in that specific, or whatever person that's in the position or so, right? Those are considered as the same thing as a server or a waiter. And if they're, you know, if they're celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk, right, and they got a bunch of people fucking liking the goddamn stupid post or so, in the first place, you shouldn't even be doing that to begin with anyways. That says a lot about those people, and it says a lot about the people in the studio that is working on the game itself, you know?
Beliefs and values of the people that are making them. We've heard studios talk endlessly about wanting to broaden their audience, but the more extreme and uniform some of these studios' internal cultures are becoming, it's the more likely that their games are going to narrow their audience instead of expanding it. We saw that with Dragon Age the Veilguard. Its themes, narrative, and gameplay failed to resonate, and because of that, players didn't just ignore the game. A lot of players actively went after it online because they felt betrayed. And once that shift happens, once players stop seeing the identity of a game as something that they're sharing between the developers and themselves, and instead start seeing it as a mouthpiece for a studio's values that don't include them, the relationship is over. That's why this backlash has been getting so visceral lately. It's not just disappointment with the product, it's a sense that they're being pushed out of something that they once cared about. Audiences that felt like they were collaborators in this creative journey with these developers suddenly feel like they're just the target of a message that they never asked for. I think one of the most dangerous forces in the industry right now is an audience that is turning against the game. People are just assuming it's bad PR or negative reviews, but it's far more corrosive than that. When players feel excluded, dismissed, or betrayed, they're not just walking away. These guys are pushing back. They're amplifying every single controversy, highlighting every flaw, and making sure that the wider audience never forgets the worst things that are associated with your studio. And once that perception takes hold, it doesn't matter how much money you dump into your marketing, that game is radioactive. We've seen this play out clearly with Concord and Avowed. In both cases, players didn't just shrug their shoulders and move on. They actively rooted for failure. For Concord, the perception was that it wasn't just simply looking generic. It was that Sony was wasting their time and resources trying to chase something that nobody wanted. By the time that game actually launched, it already had an audience that was determined to tear it down. With Avowed, it wasn't just the visuals or mechanics that tanked its interest. It was the arrogance of its developers and the massive identity shift of that game from what it was promised and what was actually delivered. The thing I think developers don't seem to understand is that the strongest backlash is coming from betrayal and alienation. It comes from the players that once cared, the people who believed in a franchise or in a trusted studio. It's also coming from potential customers who looked at a game's design and feel like it was never meant for them. In both cases, the message is still clear. This isn't for you anymore. And the irony is, backlash born from betrayal is almost always going to drown out support.
It's just that the problem is like, almost like every single game wants to be... what is the name of that one game that literally kind of like changed the format? I guess like everyone is like thinks they're like everyone thinks they're like they're like, well, I have to blame the writers for this too as well. Not all of them, you know, as like I said, if it does not apply, you let it fly, right? As the writers or so, they're like you know, they like to insert, you know, apparently because a lot of you guys tell me it's like they like to self-insert in the story, which like for me personally, like I have no problem, like for me, at least for me, at my point of view, right? Like I don't mind self-inserting myself in a story, but I'm like, I'm gonna exaggerate myself in a story like completely different. And I'm not even like, it's not even like the main character. I'm talking about like, I want to be a villain in the character. I want to be a total dick ass in the, you know, as like someone who would insert themselves in a story. Like I want to be a dick, you know, like something that I'm not usually would do normally. I would just want to be like the opposite or something completely different or something that I would love to experience, you know? There's a right way and a wrong way. Yeah, of course, there is a right way and a wrong way to self-insert yourself. Unfortunately, everyone in the Western side loves to wrongfully self-insert themselves in the goddamn fucking, in a goddamn story. That's number one. And then also, ever since The Last of Us came out, everybody wants to make, you know, that Hollywood, like that Hollywood type of movie slash video game type of way, you know. Everyone wants to be like the next, you know, the next big thing, you know, and all this other stuff, you know. You kind of hardly see like I'm trying to think in the past couple of years or so when it comes to just the AAA scene, just the AAA games, was there anything like super creative that was released? I'm trying to think or so, like very, very, very creative. There's been a lot of AA games that has been very creative. Take care, Red. Be safe. Cole self-insert herself into her hentai game as a villain. No, I do that for your mom, of course, because I want to bang your mom every single night. Anyways, I'm trying to think like AAA games or so. I haven't touched any AAA games in years. I'm trying to think of AAA games off the top of my head that were like creative, you know? It seems that many big developers have been infiltrated by people that see games as a way to push their ideology and other that normally wouldn't see or hear it. You know, the craziest thing about it, we saw a video show talking about this, how they had like this weird group that likes to brainwash people in these studios and blaming like people who are white or so. They like to say like, you know, they want them specifically to be like, oh, I'm sorry, you know, this and that and all this other stuff, you know, for, you know, because I don't know, fucking my generations of like going back to, like over like going back like what 100 years ago or something like that, where like, or roughly about like 100 years, maybe like, was that like 80 years or so or whatever. Just go all the way back. Just go all the way back during the slave era, where they're like, you know, where they're like apologizing for stuff they literally have nothing in relationship to now. It's the craziest thing to see that, you know. Last AAA game I have is just a package of collection of the Halo back in 2019. Since then, it's been mostly AA's and indies, mostly indies. I'm trying to think if there's anything AAA game or so, because I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. I'm like, did I play? Like, I definitely played a AAA game. But like, I'm trying to think if there was anything. Nah, I guess I don't know actually off the top of my head. Actually, that's crazy. If I don't even remember, if there is not even a single AAA game that sticks out to me, that is pretty crazy or so. And I'm trying to think of one. Like, I'm really trying to think of one off the top of my head right now for a AAA game. But all I can remember mostly is like the AA game Expedition 33 off the top of my head, you know?
A fan might recommend a game to their friends, but a disappointed player,
yeah, but that was like a while back or so for Metro Exodus. I'm talking about recently.
Posting, sharing, and amplifying their frustrations to make sure that they change the perception around a game. That reaction is not coming out of nowhere. It's coming from people that feel dismissed or disrespected. And whether developers want to admit it or not, that's on them. If you present yourself as the face of a studio and you spend your time online mocking...
Oh, I guess the most recent AAA game that I played was Alan Wake 2, but I didn't complete it because I found the history, because there was a video that got recommended to me of the history of Alan Wake and how they changed the main character from white to black because of diversity. That's why.
Or alienating customers.
Oh, that piece of shit, man! I was talking about creative stuff. I wasn't talking about like retarded shit, you know.
Very same customers turn their frustration into a movement against you. That's the climate AAA developers are working in right now, and fair or not, it's just the reality of the situation. Making a fun game, that's just the foundation, but if your audience doesn't feel respected, they do not care how fun your game is. And the more developers that are out there that are confusing speaking as an individual with speaking as a representative of their company or of their game, well, they're just going to create more players who would rather see their entire project crash and burn than ever give it a chance. The reason I'm making this video and why I wanted to talk about this is because I don't like the direction that conversation and gaming is headed in right now. And it's because this hobby has always represented togetherness for me. This is how I met a lot of friends. It's how some of my friends have met friends and spouses and things like that. And it's always represented sharing your favorite games and memories and whatever else, interests. It's finding commonalities between people. This is like the best place to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And while there's always going to be some rivalries and outliers, I feel like there's just this culture rot that's extending from the industry itself and likely from their own developers. And it's just making this
It's
hobby
a
not
very
represent what it used
creative
to
crash
represent,
and
at least not for
burn.
me.
Okay, buddy.
One of the things I've been doing in the background is I've been doing some side research. I've been trying to figure out what the next gaming trend is going to be. Okay? Just put it out there. And essentially, I want to figure out what the next Fortnite or whatever that next thing is going to be. And I've been paying attention to a lot of communities and doing some background research. And the funny thing is that it's already happened. But for whatever reason, nobody's really talking about it or its social impacts. And it's the fact that there's a lot of people that are moving away from competitive environments and they're moving towards cooperative ones.
Yeah, cooperative has been a thing or so that has been booming as of recently, playing with your friends and stuff like that. Peak is one of them. What is it, that one no content video or so, whatever it's called? The what is that? That one space game or so that you literally grab junk and stuff like that. Legal. I don't really know the game, to be honest. I think that's definitely like the new trend that's happening so far right now. Well, I already knew that cooperative games is becoming the next big thing, you know. As far as gaming goes, people are into friend slop at the moment. Damn, slopping all over friends' dong. That's crazy.
Helldivers popped off. I think that was one of the first signal flares that I saw.
Yeah.
Then after that, we saw Pal World. Then we saw Schedule 1 and Repo and Peak and these friend slop games that have now started to take over as well. And I think the reason why is because people are looking
you want me to do that to
for
you, not to go?
togetherness. They're looking for a sense of community. You really can't find that in a lot of other spheres, not in the same way.
Well, eventually moved onto battle royales. Battle royales tend to be more fun with friends, so I could see co-op games being the heading trend right now. Yeah, cooperative games is definitely more of the thing because I see Natsuko, I see Mikon, and I see everyone else. You know, they're all having fun together, like cooperatively playing. You know, that's a thing that is just more. It's more fun to do. You know.
Maybe it's me being sappy or philosophical, but I think the reason why is because people are looking for the meaning of playing video games again.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is entertainment and friendship.
Well, for me specifically, I've been playing other different games in general. So, like, yeah, I play gacha games, right? But it's better than playing, like, you know, any of the, as much as I like criticize or so about the stories or so when it comes to gacha games. But at least they're more enjoyable compared to me playing a AAA game that I know for a fact I'm probably not going to enjoy it like pretty much about like maybe 7 times out of 10 maybe. It's pretty rare where I enjoy like a AAA game, and even then I haven't really been playing that many AAA games as of recently. So yeah,
that's what this entire thing used to be. I think that these companies have a responsibility to their customers and also society at large to root out whatever this culture rot is and where it's extending from. Maybe it's leadership, whatever it might be. They just need to figure it out.
When are you gonna join Natsuko on the friend slop? When I can, when I can do that to Natsuko, you know?
And they need to be more proactive about it rather than reactive. I think that I'm happy that Sony took a step forward by getting rid of the person, but that was a reactive step because they likely have hundreds of millions of dollars sunk into Ghost of Yote. They have a bunch of other games that have already failed. They definitely don't want another one, I'll tell you that right now. And this is their reaction to it. What I want to see instead is I want to see some of these companies proactively
oh wait, you're still here?
And figuring out the best way to fix it and making sure that their developers' ideals, their developers' values align with the needs of the customer. If we can get back to that, we can get to a really good place. I don't know.
It'll be a while for that to happen because there needs to be like a shift in background checks. Like there has to be it has to start changing in the video game industry where they start checking people's social medias and all this other stuff to make them to make them also be accountable of their actions, you know? Because at the end of the day, they're kind of basically representing the company. And if you have these crazy people in the company itself, it kind of paints the entire company in a really bad limelight at the end of the day. You know, I just realized because of the current trend, Assassin's Creed Unity's multiplayer could have been a hit in today's interest. That's a co-op mode, basically. Yeah, it could have. If it was, like, you know, not broken on release. That's about it.
It's coming. Society's in a really weird place right now. But all I know is that this hobby is supposed to mean something. This hobby is supposed to mean...
Yeah.
This hobby is supposed to be a place where everyone can exist. It's supposed to be a place where everybody can get together, regardless of who you are. Everybody feels like they belong, and it hasn't felt that way. Game developers have gone out of their way to try to say that that's exactly what they're doing, but they've just alienated other people as a result of it. The only way you're going to be able to do that is that you need to be able to mean what you actually say. And in this case, that means that they have to figure out a way to be able to bridge the gap between themselves and the people that they disagree with. That's all I got. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'm very tired, so I'm going to go to bed. If you guys did enjoy
there's been a lot of things that's been happening, so I don't blame you at the end of the day. So, is Stellar Blade considered as a AAA game? What was the pricing for Stellar Blade? I still have not played that game. I need to play that game one of these days. It's $60. Are we still considering $60 to still be AAA pricing, or should we consider that as AA now at this point? Because now, you know, AAA games are now like what, $80 or something like that, $70 or something like that. Because now, like, because, you know, now the new pricing for video games has shifted. So that's the thing itself. That's what I'm kind of curious about. You know, how, like, what do we think? So, like, what do we stand on this stance? You know, if it is, then it is at the end of the day. So. Well, technically, this is their actual first game. This is their first game from the studio. So, I don't know. That's your opinion at the end of the day, because this is their first game. I'm looking at their roster right now. Like if they made any other games specifically. No, this is their actual first game. Silksong destroyed. I heard about that. I heard that it actually did destroy it, like everything, which is kind of crazy. Because Kazan, what is it? Is Kazan? Kazan is also, this is their first studio as well. Actually, no, this is actually their second game in the studio. So I don't know. Shift have made Destiny Child and Nikke. Yeah, but Nikke is a mobile game though. I'm just talking about like a game. I'm not talking about mobile game. That's why. Like their first actual, like, you know, game itself. But you know, like I said, it is what it is anyways. Like I said, it's everyone's opinion at the end of the day that you can consider it as a AA game or a AAA game. It's up to you. I consider them as AA game because we all know for a fact that AAA games, at least now in today's age, when it comes to AAA games, well, you got a lot of woke stuff in a lot of the you know, you got a good amount of woke BS or so in AAA games now these days. So Dragon Age, for example. And then when it comes to AA game, you know the one game that comes into my mind or so when it comes to like AA game is you know, it's freaking what's the name of that game that came out this year? Kingdom Come Deliverance. That gives me more AA vibes than AAA vibes. That's the reason why. So That's kind of like the only thing, because I think for me personally, when it comes to a AA game, it feels like you have more creative freedom compared to a AAA game, where there's a lot of moving, cogging wheels or so in a studio to find out what you need to do or so. But then the problem is, it's basically like just too many chefs in the cook. I mean, too many chefs that are cooking in the kitchen right now. When it comes to like AAA games in general, while compared to AA games, it's a smaller studio, and they have more creative freedom, and they actually experiment some stuff, and then, well, Lord and behold, you actually have an amazing product that comes out. Compared to AAA games, it's mostly like, it's like, oh, okay, oh, great, what is the next what is the next woke shit in this, but yeah. Anyways, that's the end of the video. You guys can comment, like, subscribe, do all that fancy jazzy stuff. Like I said, this is only opinion of one person at the end of the day. You can voice your opinion at the end of the day. But also, I should probably say this at the beginning of the video, but I'll say it at the end of the video. I do want to give a shout out to the first Voidling YouTuber on my community, because I actually, for those who don't know, I did open up memberships, and I actually do have one person, and I'm gonna give him a shout out or so. Amir, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. Amir Hamazan, which is down in my comment sections down below, has joined the Voidling. So thank you for joining. Thank you for joining the I know this person because I see the profile picture. If I remember correctly, if I could be wrong though, it's kind of hard to tell from this point of view, but I could be wrong, but they can totally comment or so. Is that supposed to be Mori Calliope on the profile picture? But I'm not too sure if that is, who is that supposed to be at the end of the day. It kind of does. Like, it kind of looks like Mori Calliope's profile picture. But at the end of the day, who knows? But yeah. Voidling, nah, y'all are frogs over there. This guy. I only have one person who is subscribed for membership, but if you guys want to support me, you can. It's only $1. So, I think especially in today's pricing or so, I think $1 should be just fine. If you guys want to support your girl out here, the struggles are real out here, How am I supposed to afford my next Chuck E. Cheese pizza, But anyways, that's the end of the video. And yeah, I just wanted to give it a shout out, and peace. I thought frogs were people that watch VODs on YouTube. The problem is I can't send my VODs over. That's the problem. Because like I said, I don't have access to my Twitch account in order for me to send the VOD over. But yeah, and that's it.